Former President Donald Trump pleading not guilty to 37 felony counts.
He appeared in a Miami federal courtroom this afternoon on charges that he illegally held classified documents and obstructed the government's efforts to reclaim them. Tim Blotz is in our live center right now. So Tim, a history-making day.
Yeah, it really was. This is the first former president indicted on federal felony charges and the first to be arrested for them as well. Now, Donald Trump's court appearance today was every bit the spectacle that everyone expected it would be. Law enforcement shut down freeways to clear the path for Trump's four-vehicle motorcade to arrive at the Wilkie Ferguson courthouse in downtown Miami. And it's there that he was booked and escorted up to the 13th floor to plead not guilty to the federal indictment against him. Now, the arraignment hearing lasted a little bit more than a half an hour. Now, this is federal court, so no cameras or recording devices are allowed inside. Our Lauren Blanchard is outside of the courthouse for us there tonight. And Lauren, walk us through what happened in that courtroom.
Well, Tim, I can tell you, first of all, let's start with outside. It was much, much busier than what you see right now. Just a couple of hours ago, there were hundreds of both protesters and supporters of the former president. Inside, we saw a historic moment. The first time a former president has been charged with a federal crime. What we know, because all of this, as you mentioned, no cameras inside that federal courtroom, he was brought in underground. He was fingerprinted. There was a photo uploaded. They did not take a new mugshot. And then he was brought into the courtroom where he did not speak at all. They waived reading the charges. Of course, this is a 37-count indictment. His lawyer pled not guilty. And then essentially after that, he left. We also know, Tim, there is an aide for the former president, Walt Nauta. He is charged with 6 felony counts because Nauta did not have a local counsel. He could not enter a plea, which means he was not formally arraigned at this. Nauta will have to come back in about 2 weeks' time for another hearing, but the former president is currently on his way back to Bedminster, New Jersey, where he will have this fundraiser and then a speech in the 8 o'clock hour. Obviously, he will have much more to say about what happened here today.
Lauren, did the judge ask the former president any questions while inside the courtroom?
No, and the former president did not say a word. There was actually some color we got from our producers who were actually inside the courtroom. The special counsel who has put this indictment forward, the two men did not make eye contact at all. There were no words spoken. Trump was silent the entire time. It was only his lawyer that spoke. Again, they waived reading all of these indictment charges, and so it was fairly quick. No words from the president. All we have is one drawing, one courtroom sketch, and that's basically the only look we got inside.
It's always customary for a judge in an arraignment like this to impose restrictions upon the defendant. Any restrictions upon Mr. Trump?
Yeah, so there was no bail set. There were no restrictions on whether or not he can leave the country, so his passport was not taken. The only big thing that kind of came up was who the former president is allowed to talk to. The judge wanted to set a no contact rule with anyone related to this case, especially potential witnesses. The Trump attorneys then argued that there are people that Mr. Trump deals with on a daily basis he has got to talk to, even though they may be potential witnesses. So instead they came up with a compromise. There will be a list of people who he is to have no contact with whatsoever, and then there will be a separate list, people who he can talk to but not about the case. And those are the restrictions that the former president has at this time.
All right, Lauren Blanchard coming to us from outside of the federal courthouse in Miami. Now, the former president did stop at a well-known Miami Cuban cafe to meet supporters after he left. Then he was off to the airport to fly to his New Jersey golf club, where he is holding a fundraising event tonight. In fact, we do have some live video, I believe, of that event. There it is in New Jersey. It's fully expected that he will talk about this case tonight. He's been saying since the indictment came down that he believes this is politically motivated because he is the leading GOP candidate to take on President Biden in the next general election.
All right. Thank you, Tim.